Welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to take a closer look at Unity software. As I am recording, the stock is roughly sitting at $26 with a market cap of roughly $10 billion. And from its year-to-date high, the stock is down roughly 46%. That's its year-to-date high. I mean, if we take a closer look at its max, the stock is down a lot more. So in today's episode, I want to take a closer look at numerous things. They do have earnings upcoming on November 9th, so in 2 days. So we're going to take a closer look at both the bad and the good impacting the overall stock and what maybe investors should be expecting during this crazy, what I believe is going to be a crazy earnings call, especially since we have seen a shift in CEO because of all the backlash and all the drama the company has seen in the past quarter. So we're going to take a closer look at all that in today's episode. So let's get started. So like I mentioned, we do have earnings coming up on November 9th after the market closes. This is going to be for quarter 3 of 2023. Unfortunately, Unity this past quarter has seen a lot of drama, mainly because they kind of created this fee earlier on throughout this quarter, which created a lot of backlash. We can see, right, Unity's new fee leaves game developers fuming. Numerous kind of developers leave the platform as Unity kind of creates this new fee.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
And after all that backlash, we did see Unity's CEO also step down. So the company during this earnings call, I do believe is going to be super crazy, especially as one analyst are going to be asking so many questions on the impact of the backlash that the new fees created, but more importantly, the kind of last minute switch on CEO. At the end of the day, no investor ever wants to see a company go through so many drastic changes in one quarter, and I do believe that's adding to the volatility of the stock. Now, if you're not too familiar with the kind of drama that started back in September, Unity created a new fee, and it was called a runtime fee. So there were numerous reasons, and I've done plenty of videos covering it, but just on the top level, there were numerous reasons why developers and obviously the customers of Unity created backlash. First, what you hate to pay more for something you've had before, right? So anytime you kind of see an increase in price, you kind of tend to get a backlash. But there was more to that. The fees, where normal fees are usually implemented into a software, is usually implemented into future iterations and products that are made in those future iterations. But the way Unity kind of worded it at the beginning and was making it and was gonna do at the beginning was that fee was gonna go to all type of games, even games created in previous iterations of the version of Unity software, right? And that's pretty interesting, right? Like I mentioned, that's not a normal practice. The other thing is there was no like final agreement in the terms where Unity would say, hey, look, from here on out, we're not going to increase the prices of this software. So Unity customers and Unity developers were worried that, hey, look, they're just throwing us fees out of nowhere. There's no contract we can sign. In the future, they're going to give us even more and more fees. So it created a lot of distrust with Unity and the developers. The company luckily took a lot of the feedback and took step backs on some of the fees. There are still some of the fees are still there, but it's only going to be for future iterations of the software. A very common practice in the software space. So pretty interesting how it all developed. I do believe it was just miscommunication, and Unity should have really thought about it. I don't know how the first plan went through normal PR and got approved, right? The first plan was definitely crazy. I do believe the second plan they announced was a little bit better. Even in most recent update on November 6th, so yesterday, Unity kind of updated their terms of agreement. So now developers actually have some form of contract where Unity is going to say, hey, look, you're sticking to this agreement. We're not going to do any price increases on this. We're not going to install any fees on this iteration. If they do, it's only going to be to future iterations. So I do believe this is ways to kind of rebuild that trust between Unity and the developers. Unfortunately, again, with all that pain, we did see the CEO of Unity, John, retire as both the CEO and chairman of the company's board of director. We already do have a new CEO, but the company still hasn't identified if the new CEO will be a permanent CEO. It does seem like right now the current CEO is James Whitehurst. He's not the permanent at the moment. Maybe that might change. That's what I'm saying. Things can change from here on out. But he does come from a prior company called Red Hat, prior to the IBM acquisition, after the IBM acquisition, right? So it does seem like this CEO does have some form of maybe acquisition experience, and I do believe that's pretty interesting, especially for me. Unity stock sitting at a market cap of roughly $10 billion. I do believe that is definitely a market opportunity for a lot of big players. I wouldn't be surprised if Unity, with the market cap of $10 billion, gets acquired. The only thing that usually pushes those thoughts away for me is that right now, with a lot of regulations and everything, it's very hard to kind of make acquisitions, especially in the gaming industry, right? We saw it with Microsoft and Xbox. So obviously things are looking pretty bad. Like, we saw all that backlash. We also saw the kind of the shift in CEO. The company's still looking for a permanent CEO. And if we take a closer look at financials, Unity does have a nice amount of total long-term debt, and their average diluted shares, due to some acquisitions and just them overall doing stock-based compensations, continue to dilute shares. So obviously things are looking somewhat bad, but I do believe there's a lot of growth opportunity for the company as well. But before we take a closer look at those growth opportunities, I do want to say thank you for the support. If you haven't, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 30,000 subs by the end of the year. I do have a semiconductor membership for exclusive videos. Click join to learn more. Special offer at fool.com/Jose. Free newsletter at josenajarro.substack.com, and free semiconductor news at semiconductorwatch.com. So now if we take a closer look at some of the bullish trends, I do believe Unity is sitting, like I mentioned, at a very, very crazy value. A market cap of $10 billion for one of the leading kind of game engines out there. I think it is somewhat of a steal, but there's obviously risk. We did see in the financials, the company does have more debt, and they are diluting shares, but on the bright side, they do have a nice amount of cash, roughly $1.6 billion, and roughly 47 million in cash flow from operations quarterly. So even though it's not enough to pay back that total long-term debt, they do have a nice amount of cash in the bank, and they are achieving some form of cash flow operations in the most recent quarter, and maybe that can continue. Another thing, if we take a closer look at price to sales ratio, right now sitting at 5. Again, I really do believe Unity, if everything goes well, it is sitting at a steal price to some extent. But the market understands that there's risk, and obviously more pain can come for the stock. Now, another thing, when the company did report their shift in CEO, they also did reaffirm their third quarter guidance. I do believe that's also a bullish trend, because we did see that backlash from developers, and maybe a lot of investors were worried that that would hurt quarter three guidance. But the company says, no, look, our guidance is still intact. So nothing to worry as an investor. So that gets me pretty excited. If you weren't familiar, in their last quarter, they did mention that during the second quarter of 2023, they grew revenue faster than the markets in which they compete, mainly in the ad space, right? Unity, while they are a game developer, most of their money comes from ad and growth opportunities or member acquisition. So it does seem like they are gaining market share in the advertisement space. And they do mention that they expect to continue to do so for the balance of the year. And I do believe that bodes well, especially as we've seen other advertisement companies like Google, like Meta, kind of announce a stronger ad market compared to a year ago. So I do believe that's bullish for Unity, and they might even outperform expectations. With the recent acquisitions, we can also see that this company is now adjusted EBITDA profitable. Some people could care less, but it does kind of show that, look, the company is turning around. Now, if we take a closer look, what analysts are expecting, they expect roughly $549 million in revenue this quarter. And if we take a closer look, for the third quarter, Unity says that they are expecting somewhere between 540 to 550 million. But I do believe they are going to beat their own expectations and kind of be at least a little bit better than what analysts expect. especially if we have heard from other companies, even Snap, right? Even Snap, a company that usually doesn't report strong ad growth to some extent, did report kind of a strong ad market. So I do believe we are going to see very similar numbers to Unity. So for me, I am very bullish in their software solutions and in the market opportunities. I do believe their growth solutions will continue to grow. I do believe their game development will continue to grow. But outside the gaming market is another platform that Unity, in my opinion, will continue to grow as we continue to go into AI, into digital twins, and the list goes on and on. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.